Final Fantasy XIII has a complex plot. For it to be condensed in a recap, I will be presenting this in chronological order rather than the way it was presented in the game. To begin, I'll go over the major concepts of the world as it will provide context to the story. The game is set in the world of Grand Pulse. Floating above Grand Pulse is a small planetoid called Cocoon. It's like the moon, but it is smaller and is floating above Grand Pulse rather than orbiting it. In this world, there are powerful entities called fal'Cie. However, each fal'Cie has a specific purpose. For example, there is a fal'Cie that provides light and acts as a sun, and another that produces food. The fal'Cie are unable to act outside of the roles that they have. There are two groups of fal'Cie. Those that reside and govern Cocoon are called the Sanctum fal'Cie, and the fal'Cie that reside on Pulse are called the Pulse fal'Cie. The fal'Cie are able to empower humans and turn them into l'Cie. The l'Cie are given a brand and a focus. The l'Cie focus is their mission. It is not explicitly given to them, but rather they have vague visions that hint at what the objective of their focus is. Having a l'Cie brand allows a person to use magic as well as summon eidolons to help them. If a l'Cie does not complete their mission in time, they are turned into brainless monsters called Seath, which eventually turn into stone. L'Cie who have completed their mission turn into crystals and are believed to have gained eternal life. The inhabitants of Cocoon and Pulse fear each other. The people of Cocoon believe Pulse to be a hellish place filled with unknown terrors, while the inhabitants of Pulse view Cocoon as a floating nest of vipers that are ready to strike. Several hundred years ago, before the start of the game, there was a war between Pulse and Cocoon. This war is called the War of Transgression. During this war, two Pulse l'Cies, Fang and Vanille, had a focus to destroy Cocoon. To do this, they were given the power to transform into a being known as Ragnarok. However, before they could complete their focus, they were turned into crystal. When the war ended, Cocoon harvested materials from Pulse to rebuild the damage on Cocoon's outer shell. Part of these materials was the vestige. Inside this vestige was the fal'Cie anima, as well as the crystallized bodies of Fang and Vanille. The vestige eventually became a landmark in the Cocoon town of Bodum. 13 days before the start of the game, Fang and Vanille awoke from their crystal stasis. Fang's l'Cie brand is scorched, and she has lost every memory relating to her focus. Vanille's brand and memory remains, however, she pretends to have lost her memories too. Not wanting to become Seath, Fang convinced Vanille to head to a Sanctum fal'Cie, hoping that the memory of their focus will return by attacking an enemy fal'Cie. The Sanctum fal'Cie, sensing the presence of the two Pulse l'Cies, attempts to defend itself by turning the closest human it could find into a l'Cie. This new l'Cie happened to be a little boy named Dash, the son of one of the main characters named Saz. Soldiers guarding the facility were also alerted, causing Fang to stay behind to buy time for Vanille to escape. Fang was eventually captured by a military unit known as the Cavalry. Vanille escaped and returned to Bodum, while Dash, being a Sanctum l'Cie, was taken by Psycom, a military branch of the Sanctum, to help him complete his focus. At the same time, Anima, the Pulse fal'Cie that was dormant inside the vestige, awoke. Sarah, the sister of the main character Lightning, was also in the vestige at the time and was turned into a l'Cie by Anima. Scared that she is now an enemy of Cocoon, Sarah tells her boyfriend Snow, another main character, and breaks up with him. Sarah does this to prevent Snow from being involved with the Pulse l'Cie. Snow, however, refuses to abandon her and promises to help her complete her focus. The couple then tells Lightning about it. Lightning didn't believe Sarah turned into a l'Cie and instead thought that she was using this as an excuse to marry Snow. Lightning does not like Snow because he is a leader of a gang called Nora. Furthermore, as a member of the Guardian Corps, she tells Sarah that if she was a l'Cie, it would be her job to hunt her down. This causes Sarah to run away. In the meantime, the Pulse fal'Cie was detected by Psycom and they quarantined Bodum. Snow and Sarah tried to escape on an airbike. The airbike was damaged, so Sarah jumped onto a ledge on the vestige but was trapped and captured by the fal'Cie. As a result of this, the Sanctum decided to purge the inhabitants of Bodum as well as the vestige and send them to Pulse. The inhabitants are rounded up into a train that is supposedly taking them to Pulse. Lightning, finally believing Sarah, decides to go on the purge train so that she can get to the vestige and rescue Sarah. At the same time, Saz wants to get on the train to destroy the fal'Cie inside the vestige, assuming that this will help his son complete his focus. Vanille, being originally from Pulse, sees the train as an opportunity to get home. It turns out that the train was not actually taking them to Pulse, but rather they were being exterminated. Lightning, seeing an opening from a guard, uses the opportunity to escape and head to the vestige. During the escape, she is joined by Saz. At the same time, Snow and his gang attack the soldiers transporting the vestige so that he can rescue Sarah. During the attack, he rescues a group who are on the train. Part of this group are Vanille, another main character named Hope, as well as Hope's mother. The mother volunteers to help Snow and takes up a gun to help in the fight, while Vanille is asked to protect those that did not want to fight. The mother and Snow were standing on a bridge when the bridge was destroyed by a blast. The mother falls to her death while Snow survives. Hope saw all this happen from afar and blames Snow for the death of his mother. He swears a revenge on Snow. He follows Snow to the vestige, while Vanille, feeling responsible for Hope, accompanies him. So we have our main characters heading off to the vestige. They eventually meet up and fight their way through multiple enemies until they find Sarah. Sarah tells them to save Cocoon shortly before turning into a crystal. Just before completing the transformation, one of Sarah's deer turns into crystal and drops on Snow's hands. They fight the Fal'Cie, and after defeating it, the Pulse Fal'Cie grabs them and turns them into l'Cie. The Fal'Cie falls into a lake and crystallizes the lake just before it dies. The group has a shared vision of Ragnarok, which they believe to be their focus. They also find Sarah's crystallized body in the lake. From there, the group decides to split up as they try to escape the Sanctum forces. Lightning and the rest of the group leave, while Snow decides to stay behind, not wanting to leave Sarah. However, he is captured by Fang, who is now working with the cavalry. On board the cavalry airship, Sid, their leader, recruits Snow into his operation, telling him that there are factions within the military and he wants Snow's help. Lightning and Hope decides to go to Palampolum and from there go to Eden to take the fight to the Sanctum. Saz and Vanille do not agree with Lightning and decide to go to the opposite direction, to Nautilus. In Nautilus, Vanille admits to Saz that she was the Pulse l'Cie that indirectly caused Daj to be turned into a Sanctum l'Cie, but they are interrupted by Psycom because Daj has the ability to track Pulse l'Cie. Daj, having fulfilled his focus, turns into crystal and both Saz and Vanille get captured. As Lightning and Hope make their way to Palampolum, Hope tells Lightning he blames Snow for the death of his mother. When they arrive at Palampolum, they are intercepted by Psycom, but Snow and Fang arrive in time to rescue them. The group gets split up, with Hope and Snow separated from Lightning and Fang. While separated, Hope managed to work things out with Snow. Fang tells Lightning about coming back to life from being a crystal and gives Lightning hope that Sarah could come back to life. All four are eventually reunited and seek refuge at Hope's home. Unfortunately, it did not take long for Psycom to find them. Luckily, they are rescued by the cavalry. Lightning and the group find out from a newscast that Vanille and Saz are imprisoned and are to be executed on the Palamecia, the Sanctum flagship. They also find that the Primarch is on the ship to oversee the execution. The Primarch is the head of government in Cocoon and the leader of Sanctum. So they go and rescue Saz and Vanille by flying on board a cavalry airship. Saz and Vanille take advantage of the panic caused by the attack to break out of their prison cell, and the group reunites on the deck of the Palamecia. Since the Primarch was there, they also decide to go and kill him. However, the Primarch turns out to be a Fal'Cie, Barthandelus, the leader of the Sanctum Fal'Cie. Barthandelus explained that Cocoon is a factory built for the mass production of humans. They try to attack Barthandelus, but he brushes off their attacks. Barthandelus tells them that their focus is to become Ragnarok and defeat Orphan, which will in turn destroy Cocoon so that the Maker will return. Side note, the Maker is the god who created the Fal'Cie and humans but left a long time ago, while Orphan is the Fal'Cie that provides power to Cocoon and keeps Cocoon floating above Grand Pools. The group disagrees with him because Sarah told them to save Cocoon, which completed her focus. Barthandelus corrects them and tells them that Sarah's focus was actually to bring them together so that they can be turned into l'Cie. Barthandelus lets the group escape and provides them with an airship that flies them to a l'Cie training facility that is filled with Pulse war machines. The group make their way through the facility until they encounter Sid, who reveals that he is also a l'Cie and that the Sanctum Fal'Cie tasked him with assisting the group so that they may become stronger. He explains that calling the Makers requires sacrifice and that sacrifice is the destruction of Cocoon. In other words, the Fal'Cie hope that by killing enough people, it will entice the Maker to return. The Fal'Cie are not able to do this themselves because they are locked to the purpose that they were made, so they use l'Cie to do the work for them. The group's determination to fight their focus has inspired Sid to fight against his own focus, and so he decides to go against that very focus, hoping to stop the group, causing the Fal'Cie plan to fail. After the group defeats Sid, they find an old Grand Pools airship and decide to go to Grand Pools to find a way to remove their l'Cie brand, escape their focus, and find a way to save Cocoon. When they arrive in Grand Pools, the group makes their way to Erba, Fang and Vanille's homeland. Along the way, they find that there are no more humans, only monsters, seas, and Fal'Cie remain. Erba, a once small but vibrant city, is now a wasteland. While exploring Erba, they find and Sarah, who asks them to destroy Orphan to save the world. Sarah turns out to be an illusion made by Barthandelus. Barthandelus tells the group that it is pointless to try and protect Cocoon because it is already too late. While they were in Grand Pulse, Barthandelus resigned as Primarch and appointed a resurrected Cid to take his place as Primarch. This is so that the cavalry will see Cid as a traitor and start a civil war, causing chaos in Cocoon. Barthandelus will also spread rumors that it is Orphan who is controlling Cid so that the cavalry will attack Orphan. In addition, he will bring Pulse monsters to attack the Cocoon civilians, so even if they don't kill Orphan, there will be chaos and destruction and many lives will be lost. The group battles Barthandelus, who again brushes off their attack. Barthandelus gives the group a ship so that they can go to Eden. Snow says that so long as fal'Cie are around, it's never going to end because they can keep making more lassies. The group decides to go to Eden and help Orphan instead and destroy Barthandelus. When the group make their way back to Cocoon, there is a civil war and monsters from Grand Pulse are teleported to Cocoon. This is all happening as Barthandelus said earlier. The group deduces that the cavalry is on their way to destroy Orphan. The group has to fight their way through Sanctum soldiers, the cavalry, and Pulse monsters to get to Edenhall, which is where Barthandelus and Orphan are. Cid, meanwhile, is confronted by the cavalry. He says that his dreams are nothing but a fal'Cie's fancy. He tells the cavalry to end it and they kill him. When the group arrives at Edenhall, an illusion of Barthandelus shows up, saying that the conflict is rousing the Maker. Inside, they find that the cavalry soldiers have been turned into Seath. They deduce that Barthandelus never wanted the cavalry to attack Orphan. All this was done just to lure them back to Eden. They continue to go farther until they arrive at Orphan's cradle. There, they fight multiple Seath and other creatures before they finally get to Barthandelus. To anger the group more, Barthandelus shows them an illusion where he destroyed the crystals of Dash and Sarah. Barthandelus gloats that he has achieved his goals and that Cocoon's end can't be stopped. He asks them to slay Orphan to make the end quick as an act of mercy. Lightning rebuffs that Cocoon won't die and that they are not there for that. They are instead going to kill him. They fight Barthandelus for a third time, and this time they actually defeat him. Once Barthandelus is defeated, Orphan comes out and merges with Barthandelus. Orphan was in on the plan and wants to die too. Orphan overpowers the group and tortures Vanille, forcing Fang to agree to destroy Orphan. The rest of the group tries to stop Fang, but they are turned into Seath. Fang transforms into Ragnarok and destroys Orphan's protective shell. However, she could not kill Orphan and revert back to her human form. Orphan, disappointed, tortures Fang to try and get her to turn back to Ragnarok. Miraculously, the rest of the group returns to their human form and attacks Orphan, forcing Orphan to release Fang. The group does not know what happened, commenting that turning into a Seath may have just been another fal'Cie trick. On a side note, expanded lore and clues from side quests hints that they may have been saved by the goddess Etro, who is the same goddess that crystallized Vanille and Fang during the War of Transgression. Orphan reels from the attack and re-emerges in its true form. The group realizes that if they have the power to destroy Cocoon, then they have the power to save it. So, despite looking for a way to not kill Orphan for most of the game, they are now forced to kill Orphan. With Orphan defeated, Cocoon loses energy and begins to fall towards Grand Pulse. Lightning, Snow, Hope, and Saz begin to crystallize as they have now completed their focus to kill Orphan. Vanille and Fang, having been separated from the rest of the group, combine their energy and transform into a more powerful Ragnarok. Their powers as Ragnarok destroys the Pulse monsters inside Cocoon. Ragnarok also creates a crystal pillar that stops Cocoon from crashing towards Grand Pulse. The military stops fighting and assists civilians in getting off the now destroyed Cocoon as they find refuge in Grand Pulse. Miraculously, the group returns back to their human form. Their lassie brands have disappeared. They are also joined by Sarah and Dash, who have also returned back to human form. It is not explicitly stated why this happened, so I assume that this is again because of the goddess. Fang and Vanille are shown to be in their crystal form, but also start to transform back to humans as the screen fades and the game ends.